Varumi. Inside. Chap bonduk. Ande, Varumi. Ande. Zimamoto.
I was shot straight through the brain. My spirit came out of my body, and I did see everything I'd done, everything I'd been, who I was in a moment. My childhood growing up was, from what I remember, is just real special memories. It was very relaxed. It was colonial in northern Rhodesia at that time. We had servants. Both my parents were working, and I just remember running around in the back garden or in the bush, and it was absolutely safe.
I mean, there were only a couple of hundred Europeans living in that little town. We knew everybody. There was no harm that could come to anyone.
When I went to boarding school, I was 12 years old. And, when you're 12 years old, you don't know much, and you just, everything's new.
What do you think this is, O'Connell-Jones? Don't you know the meaning of tidiness? Earn yourself another fatigue.
I think that Baz had a very difficult time. He went to a very disciplined school, private boys' school, Falcon College.
I was undisciplined. I was messy. It was fatigues were dished out because you left a sock in the locker room, or the soap was left here, or something was untidy in that kind of thing, and those fatigues had to be worked off. I got 80 fatigues, Now, if you get 3 fatigues in a week, you're going to get caned that Friday night. So every week I was caned.
Thank you, sir.
And then run. Rub your backside. Often, most times, blood would bleed, on goes down your leg or something like that. But that's how it was. Absolutely, perfectly normal. Nothing wrong with that. Today it would be called child abuse. I had a choice. I remember I very distinctly had a choice. I could either stay at Falcon College, I would become a prefect, I'd play first team rugby, I would there was a way, but then a couple of my friends were speaking about going to commercial careers, absolute freedom, like university, and I just thought, wow, that would be amazing. So I went for that option. I opted for that, and I convinced my parents that it would be good for me.
Oh, he was a little swine. I don't know how any of us could have been that stupid, but we were.
I went to commercial careers in Salisbury and had my own apartment. Freedom. I mean, I was 16 years old, and whether you went to school or not, nobody cared. There was no register, and in Civi, so it was the beginning of the hippie movement. I grew my hair, wore beads, we had a ball, And so we just played pinball. I just ended up playing pinball all day. And then started smoking dope, you see.
Oh, come on, man.
Let's go.
I wasn't part of a mold, Never. A lot of people wanted to study, do well, they knew where they were going, They got university jobs, careers. I wasn't that guy. I was always in the moment, now.
Basil was wild. He was always looking for something to get into trouble about. He would push people to their limits. He loved his music, he loved to party. And everybody was his friend, really.
I wanted to live life, and I wanted to experience real things, I wanted to experience real people, real relationships. I wanted to. I think I was looking for something.
Basil, those days, was a happy-go-lucky fellow, the live wire of the party. He would always be involved in the areas of mischief that we were all involved in at the same time.
When I started smoking dope, I didn't really. It wasn't because I wanted to. I thought, well, let's try it, and then it was a downhill thing.
I can't recall those times, but I think that was a specific troubling time for Basil. And that's when I think he started to go off the rails. And I don't know if my parents were if they realized what was happening. I don't think they did. I think drugs in those days, they weren't really spoken about.
You see, nobody knew anything in those days about drugs. Certainly not where we were. In America, yes, I'm sure. But not, we were in the middle of bloody Africa.
It was just the late 60s, early 70s. It was just a draw, and with drugs, and with hallucinogenic drugs that were coming in from America and from the UK, and into Rhodesia at that time. It was crazy what was happening.
It was the day of the hippies, and we were just the African version of the hippie.
I think it was a time that just changed everything. Our parents had that silent generation. We just found a voice that our parents didn't have. All the guys at commercial careers were druggies, and so we all hung out together. We all went to college together. We didn't go to college, or we went to the parties together and to the sessions, and we were all just, having what we thought was a great time, great time.
I couldn't believe the people he was hanging out with. A lot of them I really liked, but at the same time, they were on a different planet. They really were.
Basil, I don't think, was ever a bad kid. I don't think any of us were ever bad kids those days. We were just experimenting. We were experimenting with a couple of mind-altering substances. We were going to parties. We were just trying to live life to its fullest. There were no boundaries for us.
I still cannot understand what made Basil go the way he did.
Stay where you are! Hey! Hey! Hey, come down! Hey!
And I'd forgotten that my parents were coming to overseas at the same time as I came out of jail. So when I walked up from the cells, which were like a dungeon, I saw my father there. I just thought, oh, I'm in trouble, you know. I'm in deep trouble, you know. And I could see he was mad. He was wild, you know.
He said he didn't need a lawyer. He had done nothing wrong. And of course, because he was so confident, we were inclined to believe him.
I just said, listen, Dad, you know, this is a mistake here. And I convinced him that I was innocent and I was being set up, and I went to court.
And sure enough, he talked his way out of it in court. I mean, even so, you see, he could have been a bloody lawyer as well. But he did it superbly.
So my parents were not happy. They went overseas. And then I went on this wild binge for 6 weeks while they were overseas. And I lost days, I lost weeks, I lost track of time, and I was spaced out all the time. I was tripping all day somewhere, and we're at a nightclub that night. Went outside to smoke, and suddenly there were just lights, police cars everywhere, and we just got busted. We got caught red-handed.
Your Honour,
That was when Mark said, look, I'll get him out of here. We're leaving tomorrow. We're going up to Zambia. As far as I'm concerned, you'll never see him again. And
The judge said, well, if you want to take that on as parents, and then you take him home, take him to Zambia, and that's fine. It's be that on you. And now we in the car back to Zambia, and in the car the temperature was ice cold. Outside it was boiling hot, but inside. And they thought they would control me, you know. They thought they would gate me and they'd control me. Never happened. Zambia had got independence in 1964 because it was a colony of Britain. So as soon as independence came, the police force kind of fell away, and so the law and order wasn't like in southern Rhodesia. I mean, we used to smoke dope openly. Police could walk past us, no problem. They weren't worried about a young boy smoking dope. Didn't bother them.
I really do think it was just all play for him, and being stoned the whole time. And I know they used to take a lot of speed. I'd been around them when they were taking a lot of speed, and acid.
Once the guy started taking LSD, it was crazy, man. Crazy. We'd take amphetamine drugs, popping pills, and we had a contact in the chemist that would just give us big bottles like that of amphetamines. We'd buy them for like $10, whole bottle, backdoor stuff. And because we were speeding, we never got tired, and we'd just draw all night and into the next morning, and all day and into the next night, and then on Sunday night take Mogadon or heavy sleeping tablet, just crash. I looked in the mirror one day and I just thought, oh, I'm in trouble. My skin was yellow. I'd lost so much weight. In the guys, they said, well, let's go and join the rugby club and let's go and throw a border on you.
Yep. Inside. Yes. First point.
the first train station, the guys were just chucking everywhere, you know, shooting, and I was just so unfit.
Baz, take a smoke break. Charles is still not the way.
You know, I realized that I'd have to stop, because I'm playing serious rugby now, I'd have to stop doing speed drugs. I mean, that won't work. You can't play. And hallucinant drugs, can you imagine?
And that is when we thought he had pulled himself together. And that is when he was chosen to play for Zambia.
I was 18, so I was young. I thought it was justified, and I was excited. I was really excited to play for the country.
Dad, I'm in here.
He wanted to say, "Well done, I'm proud of you," but he can't get those words out, you know. So it just kind of, he came from behind and he did something. I mean, he was a very strong man. And then I tried to trip him, and then I just pulled my knee out, you know. And I knew that immediately. That was it.
And that was the end of his knee. That was the end of his rugby.
I was also working at the time with a quantity surveying company. My boss suggested I went to Crawley College of Technology and did a diploma certificate to get into quantity surveying properly. And so I said, yeah, no, good. When I told my dad I was going to the United Kingdom, and he said, what are you going to do there? I said, well, obviously I'm going to college. But I said to him, but I also want to go and find myself. And his reaction was quite priceless, you know, because he just said, "You fool, you know, what are you looking for, you know?" So he was right, you know. I never found myself anyway. I took myself wherever I went. So. Then a friend of mine came, and he came with two suitcases full of grass. And he just said, "Baz, come, let's move this, you know." So that was me. I just bombed out of college, went to London, and we had I had some friends there, and that's when we started really getting involved in what you call drug trafficking today.
Sam? Sam! Jeez. Long time. Jimmy, how you doing? That's good, man. What brings you guys to London?
Baz, we got a car full of weed.
Seriously? Well, let's go get a drink then.
They weren't sure that I would actually be able to move it, so they gave me half of it, which was two suitcases full. Led Zeppelin was touring at that time, and the manager of Led Zeppelin came.
This guy's cool, right, Baz?
Yeah, he's cool. Are you feeling a little bit nervous there, Sam?
Just a little bit, man. that them?
No, that's not them, Sam. Just chill out.
Is that them?
That's them, Sam. Good evening.
You got the stuff.
Sam.
Here's your money.
Thank you.
They went off, gave us tickets for the concert. There was a house that we were renting that was absolutely a drug haven. It was just cocaine everywhere. One of the guys had spiked the sugar. So now the sugar bowl, because we were always drinking tea and sugar, was full of speed. So now we couldn't sleep and we couldn't understand why nobody was sleeping. And we kept on drinking tea, you know, until somebody realized that the sugar was so full of speed, you know. But that's how we were living, you know. It was madness. The police were all over us. I mean, every one of my friends. When I say everyone, there must have been like 15 of them were in jail, except me. I was in so much trouble, man. I was in so much trouble. I was living on the run, you know. I was enough of police on my back, and I needed to get out of the country.
The unilateral declaration of independence happened in 1965, and that was when Ian Smith separated his government from the government under British rule, declared independence, and very quickly the African nationalist movement gained momentum, and guerrillas started to get trained and to infiltrate Zimbabwe, or Rhodesia as it was then, quite quickly. And in 1966 there was an attack on a farm, a person was killed, and shortly after that another attack. And very quickly it changed from being an insurrection to being a full-blown civil war.
It was a very strange time in all of our lives because it was a war that was being fought, but I don't think at our age did we ever consider that it came with huge, huge dangers and that this was a real war. You know, this was real bullets flying around, and well, I certainly never thought about that. We used to drive around to farms, to friends of ours, and we'd have guns out of the windows, and it was just a way of life.
Regardless of where you traveled as a civilian, you were always having to travel with a weapon in your car to fend off any would-be ambush. You had to be very careful that you didn't drive your car off a tar road. If you were driving on the shoulder on the dirt road, you might well find yourself driving over a landmine. And we'd go out to visit friends who lived on farms. You had to travel more or less exclusively in convoy. You'd stop and be interrogated by a security guard or several security guards. You might have to radio into the farmhouse before they'd open the gate and let you in. And once you were inside the fence, then you could relax and make safe your weapons and just carry on having a party or whatever you were going to do on the farm.
When I went to Rhodesia and the intensity of the war was really getting heated up there, and I really had a feeling to be a part of that.
Basil didn't decide to join the army. His father told him to join the bloody army. I mean, it was as flat and simple as that. You have behaved so badly. You are back now in, it was still Rhodesia, and you will now behave. And it's the only way you can learn that is to get into the army. You'll get into the bloody army.
For me, it was a cause that I believed in. I don't know, I'm sure I was brainwashed into it because when you're young, you don't take in much. And I was only 20 years old.
He was quite conscious of what was at stake. And, you know, he was a good soldier.
I wanted to join the RLI because it's a specialised unit. RLI stands for Rhodesian Light Infantry.
The RLI was a specially established, what's known as a commando battalion, which means that it was designed to operate on very light, very fast, very efficient and very effective rapid movement deployments in order for it to strike at enemy targets extremely quickly and with a certain element of surprise.
The RLI was a pretty elite fighting force. It was in its day classified as probably one of the best anti-terrorist fighting forces the world had ever seen.
Firstly, I think the RLI was made up of essentially very hard men, guys who were very aggressive by nature, very unafraid, willing to take risks. If you were enlisted into the RLI and you passed the selection course to get into the battalion, you would be considered to be a very proficient soldier.
Intense. The training was absolutely intense. From morning to night, we ran. We were harassed. Boarding school was child's play to what actually happens in train troop, because train troop, you know, they're training you and brainwashing you from a civilian into a soldier, into from thinking like a civilian into thinking like a soldier that has been trained to kill people. That's basically it, you know.
It started off with 6 weeks of basic training. They did all sorts of things to try and break you down. And once they'd broken you down, then they started to rebuild you in the way that they would want to. The second period was more conventional type training, and then the last period of the training was what they call coin, which was teaching you to fight in an unconventional way.
So I was a brand new army officer, fresh out of training school, and very nervous about meeting my new troop. This was a very famous, very highly decorated battalion. It didn't take me long to realize that this was a group of very high-spirited youngsters, very exuberant, a lot of them very hard work, and a lot of them pretty bad influences on everybody else, really goading each other to make trouble and make life difficult.
I think in the army we lived a different kind of life, because one never knew when it would end or how it would end or if it would end. So we were taking it one day at a time and trying to make sure that we got as much out of that day as was humanly possible.
Basil was one of my new troopies. It took about, I guess about a month for me to actually really like Basil as a person, exuberant and troublemaking though he was.
I met Basil for the first time in 2 Commando, RLI.
I knew that Basil was one of the ringleaders in his little coterie of friends. He was certainly a strong influence on a lot of the other troopies. He had a wonderful sense of humor. He was a troublemaker, certainly, but I would have classified him as a good troublemaker. He was the kind of guy I would always want to have in the troop.
You can have that. I'm gonna have this.
And then?
Yes,
Oh,
boys.
no. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Smoke?
And our operation there was called Fire Force. And it operated with 3 Alouettes and a K-car, killer gun.
Fire Force was just a reaction unit. that as soon as there was a sighting of guys that have come into the country, that fire force would react.
If there was a sighting of Charlie Tango's communist terrorists, the choppers would load up, four to a chopper, and then the paras, which were usually about 20. And then we would move to the location and do what had to be done. Yeah.
Because it was counterinsurgency, you know, you'd never see the enemy. It's not like you had battle lines drawn and you'd see exactly what you're going to. You had to seek and find, you know. And so we had to rely on the intelligence that we had. And once we had made contact, all hell would break loose. Machine gun fire, grenades, airstrike.
We had been moving from success to success to success. We were a killing machine. We became overconfident. We thought we were superhuman. Nothing could hurt us. But reality came on the 1st of February 1977.
Not again.
Get in there.
Yeah. Mackenzie, are you ready to lose your money?
Whatever, Baz. This isn't rugby.
Watch out for that crooked nose of yours.
Watch him, watch him, watch him.
When the siren went, it meant time to go. Wherever we were, whatever we were doing, we just stopped.
Let's go.
We'd be up in the air in less than 2 minutes. Nobody spoke, there was no jesting, no, very serious. Very serious, this is it, action time.
Everything is just running through your brain saying, well, you know, how many people are there? Are they dug in? Are they, you know, you never knew what to expect.
I would always look over, because I was on the door, and I'd look over the trees and from the helicopter, and I'd think, wow, this is it.
Once you hit the ground, you stop thinking about what was going to happen, and all your training came into play.
Stop one. Take off, stop one.
We put on the ground, the captain, he just said, listen, it's a big camp, there's 80 guys here. We're going to put you in a riverbed and you're going to walk up a mountain and you're going to make contact with these guys. The Keiko would be from on top, would provide airstrike and look to see who's where. The bush was very thick and we were moving. The KCOG couldn't see us. They'd lost sight of us. And so they asked me to throw a smoke grenade.
Stand by. Baz, front.
And then they said, okay, got you. Turn a little bit left and you should make contact with these guys.
Roger, 100 meters west.
Trev, local woman in sight?
Sie kommen, Mom, sie kommen. Still warm. We're not here for you. We won't hurt you. But I need you to tell me where the men went, and then we'll let you go.
And all of a sudden there was automatic gunfire.
We were ambushed. And my friend, Guy McKenzie, was shot and killed straight through the ears. He took a bullet straight through the front of his head. Dead.
K-car, contact! K-car, stop 2. Mackenzie's down.
Their tactic was ambush and run. And then if they saw we're catching them, they'd ambush and then try and hit somebody to slow us down and then to get to the borders, either to Zambia or to Mozambique. That's what I thought had happened. I thought they'd ambushed us and now they'd run. I didn't know that they were right. In fact, 3 of them were right there, just, yeah, like this.
I was about 1.5 meters from Basil. He was taking the lead. And Basil took that leap. Basil took the head wound.
I was shot straight through the brain. I took a bullet in the top of my head and came out the back of my skull. The pain was absolutely excruciating, intense. The sound of like a zillion bees in my head. It was, I can't begin to explain to you the agony that I felt and the intensity of the pain. Every fiber of my being was screaming in agony. I couldn't move a muscle, you know, and I hadn't lost consciousness. I could see my rifle lying in front of me, and I knew I was dying. I was very aware of the fact that I was dying because I couldn't breathe. My heart wasn't beating. I just stopped. I just stopped. And suddenly the reality of this is war. This is the reality of war and how horrible, that horrible feeling of all that. It was so intense. It was so intense.
Run down! Run down!
All the guns were shooting. There was grenades going off, small arms fire, machine guns. I mean, it was crazy. And I was thinking to myself, please guys, just get me out, get me out, get me out. spirit came out of my body. And that was the most amazing because I was instantly free from pain. Instantly.
On the way past, someone saw Basil, saw the head wound.
I was trying to feel for a pulse. I couldn't find a pulse at all. And I was shouting, Basil's gone, Basil's gone, Basil's gone.
I mean, it was just crazy, and I just saw it like that for a moment. And then through a tunnel, you know. And I did see my everything I'd done, everything I'd been, who I was in a moment of time. And I walked, I came out, and I was walking. I could hear music, and I was thinking, wow, this is wonderful. Time stands still, you know, in eternity. It seems because I'm told the contact went on for 28 minutes. And as I re-entered, all the pain came back, all the drama.
And then they left Basil's body lying there and retreated, called an airstrike in.
The first communicator went back to the base camp where we were. Was Basil O'Connell-Jones, Guy Mackenzie, are both dead.
K-car, stop one! Requesting airstrike!
Negative, stop one. You have a man in the safe zone.
KIA, go ahead!
Fireball!
Went back over Basil after the airstrike to put him in a body bag and found that he had a pulse.
Casevac is casualty evacuation. Generally what would happen is if somebody was in the field, he'd be shot, we would be choppered out to them, or we'd be taken in a vehicle as medics, assess the situation, assess what was wrong with the chap, do our first aid, whatever required of us. So my first actual Casevac as a Rhodesian medic was with Basil. During my time at mid-training school, I always knew with head wounds, one couldn't administer morphine. So all I did in my backpack is I packed drips. I packed a few first field dressings. I think I packed a couple of vials of penicillin for some unknown reason.
Come on, pick up, come on!
I remember the helicopter blade spinning above my head. And I remember thinking to myself, I know I'm being casualty evacuated. I'm familiar with this procedure. I've done it so many times. I know I've been shot. It's clear. But just now, I was not here. What am I doing back here? And then I lost consciousness again.
I got off the chopper and I went across to the 25 ambulance. By then the medic had opened the back door and Basil was on a stretcher. His hair was so matted with blood and dirt and that type of stuff. It looked bad, it looked really bad. And I must be honest, when I looked at Basil, I saw Basil, I thought it probably would be a better thing for this guy to die because he's going to be a cabbage, he's not going to walk, he's not going to be able to talk. When the doctor gave me the drips, he said, you might have to use these before you get to Salisbury. But he said, I doubt very much he's going to need them. In other words, implying that he didn't think Basil was going to make it to Salisbury. And I can remember thinking to myself, this is going to be my damn first Casevac, and the Casevac's going to die on me. And we had Basil on the floor next to the aeroplane. And Basil started to murmur, he started to sort of make shouting, still like shouting type, and he tried to sit up a few times. And I got such a fright because I knew I wasn't expecting this. To my mind, Basil was supposed to be unconscious all the way to Salisbury. And being a recently qualified medic, I had no idea what am I supposed to do now. I've got no morphine on me to sedate him. And to my utter amazement, I opened my backpack with my drips and that type of stuff, and I know for a fact, I can vouch for my life in it, I had no vials of Valium, and I opened my backpack and I started to go through my drips, not knowing what I'm looking for. And to my utter, total amazement, which I cannot explain to you today, there were 3 vials of Valium in my pack. How they got there, who put them in there, I know for a fact I didn't do it.
And there was a knock on the door. and it was the Anglican priest. And he said, "Oh, I'm afraid I've got bad news." And I said, "Well, yes, that's obvious, otherwise you wouldn't be here." And he said, "Well, Basil is still alive, but it's a brain injury." And I remember in the car saying, "I don't know whether to pray that he lives or that he dies." And Mike said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, if it's that bad," I said, "Basil would not want to live as a vegetable." And Mike said, "No, heaven forbid." And on those terms he put foot. And we flew.
I got back from work one day and my aunt was there, my mum's sister. And she said to me, "Gail," sorry, I'm getting emotional. It's crazy. She just said, "Gail, Basil's been shot and it's bad. You need to come."
My mother went to the X-ray room. They spoke about it, and then the doctor said to her, "You know, judging by the X-rays, your son will never walk again. He'll never talk again. His motor section has been removed. His speech section's gone." They thought I was blind.
When I saw Basil, his eyes were green, a very pale green. His blood loss was so, I mean, he had basically no pulse.
And so they operated for 8 hours, I think it was. Apparently I died on the operating table because all the blood I lost, and there's a bit of bone blocking all the main supply of blood, so we know it's taken off it.
But it was strange because never, no matter how badly he was wounded, did I ever think he'd die.
You see, I didn't understand the gravity of my injury because my mother, bless her darling heart, had heard from some crazy trooper who was smoking dope somewhere, and I wasn't even there, that I walked the helicopter. Now, it is just, I mean, it's impossible, absolutely. But she chose to believe that story. And you know, she never lied to me about any medical stuff, ever. So when she said, "You're going to walk again," or "You walk to the helicopter," I believed her.
I remember going up to Andrew Fleming, the wards, and I'd hear him screaming from many floors down. That was distressing. We'd always know it was him.
I was in hospital for a month, and then went to St. Giles, which is a rehabilitation center, and I was there for a year.
The Rhodesian war machine rolls into action, geared up for airborne strikes into neighboring Zambia. Black as well as white troops took part in the recent raids because they're here in the name of the multiracial government in Salisbury, grouping white leader Ian Smith and the internal black leaders Satoni,
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me help you. Give me your hand.
Oh,
Hold this side. Just relax.
My next memory, weeks later, maybe months later, Gail phoning me and saying, "Mum, Basil's talking."
Here's Basil.
I'm there.
Outside?
He would get his words mixed up at that stage, but at least they were coming back. Like he would say things like, switch the light off, and then he'd get very, very frustrated because we don't switch the light off, and he'd just want to scream because what he was trying to say was close the curtains.
You could see that he was very pent up and that this new condition of his was something that he really, really couldn't take. He was extremely unhappy.
To liven things up a bit, he used to get some of his friends to bring him in a bit of weed. So there he was with this bullet through his head, still smoking weed. I mean, that was just, couldn't believe that.
We used to actually kidnap him out of St. Giles, put him in the car, take a drive, close all the windows, light 2 or 3 joints, and smoke all the joints and keep the windows closed so that we would help Basil recover.
I mean, we used to go and kidnap him, if you want, from St. Giles and take him drinking like idiots that we were.
I just said to the guys, I want something to smoke, I thought that would help, but it didn't. It just didn't help. It just complicated things a lot more.
Did you get the post?
What do you think you're smoking, moron?
I just want to get back to before.
Baz, it's never gonna be like it was before.
I don't need to hear your,
He was very angry with his physical disability and with the pain that he was in and the way he looked, the way he was finding it so difficult to talk, just incredibly irritated.
If people came to see me, I was okay, but I was so messed up, so messed up. I was afraid, I was angry, I was racialistic, I tried to enjoy life, and I did, I have a lot of friends there and some girls and this and that, but I was too cooked, and I was also smoking a lot of dope. I was convicted again of drugs, and the judge told me, he said, it's only because of your physical condition that keeps you out of jail. But if it happens again, we're gonna relook at it. And that kind of gave me a fright, because I couldn't imagine being in jail and being busted up like I was.
I had a Reader's Digest, and there was an article in it, and it was called Life After Life. And I said, "Oh, Basil, I think this will interest you." He said, "Mum," and he knocked it out of my hand. He said, "I've been there. I know."
A few army guys came and just took me out of the hospital. About 3 o'clock in the morning, we're sitting on beanbags, smoking dope and listening to music, And they said, "But Baz, what happened, I said, "But you guys were there." And they said, "But what happened to you?" And then I told them that what I've told you now, that the story of dying. And then they said, "Wow, Basil, that's heavy. That's something else." I said, "Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't know what it is, but when you die, it's not over. And I just knew that. I knew that. I said, I will die again. I don't know I don't know what happens after life. But death is not final. It's a comma. It's not a full stop."
I think he must have been in St. Giles, if I'm not wrong, about 8 months, maybe even longer. And after he came back from St. Giles, we'd got this little cottage together in Harare. And Baz came and lived with me, and we had 2 guys who looked after him. Then he went up to Sanga Lodge, and that was up in the highlands. He was starting to walk then as well.
My first steps were taken in Sanga Lodge. I remember clearly. I was walking across a volleyball court, and there was lines. So I remember thinking clearly, put 1 foot there, 1 foot there, 1 foot there, 1 foot there. Don't cross the line, that kind of thing, And so I managed to walk from here to maybe that post. It took me about an hour, But I was determined, and I really believed it's not impossible. Honestly, it should be impossible, but.
Sanga Lodge used to be some kind of motel or hotel. I think it was more of a motel, but it was taken over, and it became a convalescent centre for army guys that were either legs off or bullet wounds.
And they were all there in that environment doing gym and having to come to terms with what's happened to them physically. Their lives wouldn't be the same again, but they will continue. And there was a medic that was helping with administer our drugs and things like that there, who was a born-again Christian.
On a daily basis, I was with the guys. We'd just have general chats, and I'd be able to share with guys, and they'd be able to share with me about what they'd been through and so on.
Hey! Hey, you! Go spread your rubbish somewhere else, man. How dare you say there's a God? Are you blind? Look around. And tell me if you actually believe the crap you're selling, man.
I said, I'm sorry, pal, but I'll talk about who I want to talk about. And he said, well, I don't want to hear it. I said, well, you don't have to listen. You can go somewhere else. And he just, Basil, so, but I was called away then.
Why? Were you walking away?
Then it came close time for dinner. Now I went to join it, find a place at the table. The only place that was left was a place next to Basil.
He leans over his food, first of all, and he starts praying. And I can see the hot steam going into his face. So I think he's smelling his food, because who prays for their food, really, And I said, does it smell good? He said, no, I'm praying. I said, well, why? What for? What on earth for?
And so now he didn't rant at me. Now he just challenged me.
The questions I was asked, they were really irrelevant. There was a much more pertinent issue at stake. It was me, and what was happening to me, and what had happened to me, and what happened when I got shot, and why are you saved? Why was your life spared, and why not Guy's, Mackenzie's, for example, and all these things, and I didn't believe that my life could ever change. I didn't believe it was possible for anybody. But he's saying his life changed. I wasn't doubting that. That's what he believed in. I didn't think it was untrue. I didn't believe it would happen to me though. I've done so many wrong things. I'm ashamed. I would never talk about it.
Then I helped him back to his room. And I saw him into his room, sat him on his bed, because he sorted himself out from there, and I left.
And I just said, I've done atrocious things. Can you save me, Lord? Simple like that. The next morning I woke up, I knew that I was absolutely not the same person. It was in here. I'd never been peaceful, never experienced peace. For the first time I was at peace. Joy, a real joy. And for the first time I felt it's going to be fine. Even though I'm busted and my body's broken, it's going to be fine.
There was a huge change. There was peace and happiness.
I went to church, when I came back from Sangaloj, and I don't even remember what the guy preached, And he made an altar call. He said, well, if anybody wants to come forward, let him come forward and pray. And
Can you help me? What's wrong?
I lost everything. My son was shot and killed during the war.
And that broke my heart completely. Because I knew it, you see. The army guys were one thing, because they were, but the guys from Zambia and from Mozambique, they just come and they would just destroy them. So they were caught in between a rock and a hard place. They had no safe place.
When he saw that black lady crying in that church, that was the first time his anger could release a little bit, when he realized that he had sympathy as well for the other side.
He cried with her and hugged her. And that was far removed from what he would have done normally as a young white in an African country, with a certain amount of racism attached. And that possibly broke some of his racism, or all of it.
I think I cried probably for the whole day, for a week, I don't know. But it was a healing. It was a healing.
He is the most singularly uncomplaining person I think I've ever met. When he has more reason to be complaining about stuff than anybody I know. He has an unfailing sense of humor. He has the most deeply held convictions and the most passionate beliefs of practically anybody I know.
He will tell you himself that he'd rather be like he is now and know the Lord than what he was like before. And I think had he not been injured in the war, I dread to think actually where he would be now.
Transformation.
Yes. Before and after. Extreme makeover. Now I can put my socks on.
Okay.
I've just trained my wife to do it, bro.
So you
to do a better job. So,
I'd like to see you put your socks on.
Yeah, so would I. So would I.
Okay, I'll show you.
Let's not get up.
No.
He's always said to me, he said, God has put me on this earth to do some work, and that's what I'm going to be doing.
One of the things that I most admired about Basil, or do most admire about Basil, is that I watch a number of preachers and I watch a number of churches and I watch what gets done in them. The one thing I always measure them against is the fact that Basil, if he had 2 shirts, would give one away. If he had 2 shoes, he would give one away. If he had 2 pairs of trousers, he would give one away. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, the house he owned in Zim, he gave away to the church. So to me, Basil, proper Christian.
What a strong character to be able to deal with that and to do what he's done now, and to have met Kathy, and, you know, to have had those wonderful children, and to have been such a fantastic father, and just an amazingly strong person. So I value that in him. Very proud.
The distance